Miss GAMBAKWE was allowed. It's been admitted well. Certain conditions have been imposed. I think the judge said stay on some federal weeks. It is given at least essential at this. We report once every Friday. Let's say he must not interfere with witnesses, and is also required to surrender his passport. Those are the conditions. Thank you.
The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would yield 1 minute to the gentlelady from Georgia, Ms. Taylor Greene.
The gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I am against the impeachment effort by the Democrats. President Trump has held over 600 rallies in the last 4 years. None of them included assaulting police, destroying businesses, or burning down cities. Democrats have spent all this time endorsing and enabling violent riots that left billions in property damage and 47 dead across the United States. Democrats are on record supporting violence when it serves their cause, in their own words, on social media, on interviews, and on fundraising platforms. Act Blue. Democrats support defunding the police when it's someone else's city, someone else's home, and someone else's business. Democrats will take away everyone's guns just as long as they have guards with guns. Democrats' impeachment of President Trump today has now set the standard that they should be removed for their support of violence against the American people. I yield back. Thank you.
The gentlewoman yields back. The gentleman from Ohio wishes to reserve. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Levin.
The gentleman from Michigan is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, for 2 months, Donald Trump used the biggest megaphone in the world to organize a campaign of outright lies to overturn a free and fair election. On January 6th, he summoned and incited a mob of domestic terrorists to fight like hell and sent them to ransack this Capitol in order to prevent us from formalizing his election loss. It was a grotesque orgy of deadly white supremacism, anti-Semitism, and strongman rule. Today, we will do our duty and vote to remove the author of this horrifying chapter and banish him from public service. I yield back.
The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would yield 1 minute to the gentlelady from Georgia, Ms. Taylor Greene.
The gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I am against the impeachment effort by the Democrats. President Trump has held over 600 rallies in the last 4 years. None of them included assaulting police, destroying businesses, or burning down cities. Democrats have spent all this time endorsing and enabling violent riots that left billions in property damage and 47 dead across the United States. Democrats are on record supporting violence when it serves their cause, in their own words, on social media, on interviews, and on fundraising platforms. Act Blue. Democrats support defunding the police when it's someone else's city, someone else's home, and someone else's business. Democrats will take away everyone's guns just as long as they have guards with guns. Democrats' impeachment of President Trump today has now set the standard that they should be removed for their support of violence against the American people. I yield back. Thank you.
The gentlewoman yields back. The gentleman from Ohio wishes to reserve. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Levin.
The gentleman from Michigan is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, for 2 months, Donald Trump used the biggest megaphone in the world to organize a campaign of outright lies to overturn a free and fair election. On January 6th, he summoned and incited a mob of domestic terrorists to fight like hell and sent them to ransack this Capitol in order to prevent us from formalizing his election loss. It was a grotesque orgy of deadly white supremacism, anti-Semitism, and strongman rule. Today, we will do our duty and vote to remove the author of this horrifying chapter and banish him from public service. I yield back.
The gentleman The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would yield 1 minute to the gentlelady from Georgia, Ms. Taylor Greene.
The gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I am against the impeachment effort by the Democrats. President Trump has held over 600 rallies in the last 4 years. None of them included assaulting police, destroying businesses, or burning down cities. Democrats have spent all this time endorsing and enabling violent riots that left billions in property damage and 47 dead across the United States. Democrats are on record supporting violence when it serves their cause, in their own words, on social media, on interviews, and on fundraising platforms. Act Blue. Democrats support defunding the police when it's someone else's city, someone else's home, and someone else's business. Democrats will take away everyone's guns just as long as they have guards with guns. Democrats' impeachment of President Trump today has now set the standard that they should be removed for their support of violence against the American people. I yield back. Thank you.
The gentlewoman yields back. The gentleman from Ohio wishes to reserve. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Levin.
The gentleman from Michigan is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, for 2 months, Donald Trump used the biggest megaphone in the world to organize a campaign of outright lies to overturn a free and fair election. On January 6th, he summoned and incited a mob of domestic terrorists to fight like hell and sent them to ransack this Capitol in order to prevent us from formalizing his election loss. It was a grotesque orgy of deadly white supremacism, anti-Semitism, and strongman rule. Today, we will do our duty and vote to remove the author of this horrifying chapter and banish him from public service. I yield back.
The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would yield 1 minute to the gentlelady from Georgia, Ms. Taylor Greene.
The gentlewoman is recognized.
So good morning to you. I've just been listening us live on your news network, Zimbabwe.com. Let us know where you're logging in from. It's early morning right now. I don't know what time it is where you are. Just type it in the comment box right there. CCC MPs have revealed to this news network that there is no impeachment on the cards this week. This week, I'll get this right. I will repeat. There is no impeachment on the cards at all from the ZANU-PF side, because the ZANU-PF side is the stronger in Parliament. This is contrary to claims that were made by a UEBERT Angel agent called GAMBAKWE, who we see in the picture there, the man that we see there with the Emerson Mnangagwa ambassador, the gold mafia implicated UEBERT Angel, who claimed about 2 days ago, that impeachment was going to happen this week. We spoke to the current caretaker leader of the CCC, Mr. Jameson Timber, who told us that there is nothing like that, nothing, zilch, no, nothing on the cards at all. Contrary to what was claimed by this UEBERT Angel agent called GAMBAKWE, who compromised Honorable Job Sikala. And quickly we note here that there have been, however, a few developments in the country at present, and things seem to be coming up. And this is in relation to accurate predictions that were made by Blessed Geza, which we're going to be showing shortly, Zimbabweans, if and when an impeachment happens, what exactly will happen. Impeachment chaipo. We'll give you a quick glimpse here of how an impeachment will be done. That is what we've been showing you also using footage in the US. The only time when there was something almost closer to this, we're just going to show you quickly, apart and aside from the the one in 2017, the impeachment of Robert Mugabe. This is an incident that we are quickly bringing on to the screen, where something closer to an impeachment happened in Zimbabwe. So quickly, this was in Parliament a few years ago. This confrontation that we are looking at right now. I'm hoping that people can see. Here we go.
Concerning the events of the 15th of October 2019. On the 15th of October 2015, there was an altercation that took place in the city of Belgrade in Serbia between you, Mr. Speaker, and the Zimbabwean journalist called IMPEACHMENT. After that altercation, Mr. Speaker, it is now reported, and also through an affidavit that has been deposited to the Interparliamentary Union at EU, that you, Mr. Speaker,
Advocate, a crime is being committed right now. People are dying. People are dying.
They say
Go to court where? People are dying right now in Zimbabwe.
National Intelligence, Isaac Moyo, that IMPEACHMENT is a security threat in this country. IMPEACHMENT, Mr. Speaker, said this is Zimbabwe. Who, in terms of the constitution, Mr. Speaker said, IMPEACHMENT is a Zimbabwe who is entitled to the protection by the laws of this country over the issue of this security. May you please guarantee excess raised a rate that he has been classified as a threat measure security, that he is guaranteed to come to his country without harassment. It is said that his classification as a threat to state security was motivated by your report to the Director General of the Central Government. Can you guarantee IMPEACHMENT's security in our country?
The leaders are afforded state security. And I was privileged to be covered by the state security of Serbia. Because of what the security in Serbia talked, to the extent that my security had to be secure. They did take the necessary measures, including beefing up the security around my presence in Serbia. It is normal practice that the security services in Serbia are obligated to inform my country of origin of what is transpired. And it is the communication between the security services of Serbia and security services here in Zimbabwe. They were obligated to give a report and liaise with the security services here in Zimbabwe. What transpires between the two organs is not privy to me. It is a matter between the two security agencies in Serbia and so I did not make any report.
One recently said the only job we have in Zimbabwe is Sikala. These were the scenes inside Parliament in November 2019 when Job Sikala took the Speaker of Parliament, Jacob Mudenda, to task over why he reported me to the Zimbabwe Intelligence Service, the CIO, following my interview with the learned advocate in Belgrade, Serbia, when I demanded answers from him over why he is
people are dying. One must move into for it now. People are dying
over their refusals
and here you are. You are
accept
mentally torturing
and honor
MDCMPs.
the self-confessing 1
On what
August
basis do you
2018
withdraw their allowances
criminal
for 5
Emerson
months?
Mnangagwa by standing up for him. At the time, Mudenda had withdrawn their allowances for over 5 months, and my interview with him eventually resulted in him confessing to his participation in
The war crimes committed on the 1st of August 2018, which resulted in the unconstitutional overthrowing of an elected government on that day, and which crime has given Mudenda the very job that he has traveled to Belgrade, Serbia for.
I have got victims of 1 August.
All right.
Do you also respect the people who are suffering? So do you respect the victims who still have bullets in their bodies right now, advocate? The victims who still have bullets in their bodies right now. Advocate, you are the highest, you're the most respected person, and you are mentally torturing MDC MPs, adding to the physical torture to victims of violence on 1 August, which was done to change election results, and this was broadcast on ZBC. Advocate Mudenda, you are a respected man. You are the highest, most respected.
It's not privy to me. It is a matter between the 2 security agencies in Serbia and Zimbabwe. So, what transpires between the 2 organs? What transpires between the 2 organs?
Transpired between the 2 security organs. The Speaker of Parliament had called the police on me. And what transpired was in fact very embarrassing for Mudenda. The same police officers ended up hugging me, and number 2, a document was issued, which is an indictment against the Speaker of Parliament for war crime. The basis for war crime against the Speaker of Parliament, right there in Serbia. So there is the evidence. The only thing that was communicated to Zimbabwe is the arrest warrant against the Speaker of Parliament. And Job Sikala took Jacob Mudenda to account over that. It is now official that Zimbabwe's Speaker of Parliament is, according to international law and Serbian domesticated ICC laws, a war criminal by definition and in practice. What does this mean then for the legal legitimacy of not just Mudenda's parliament, but the presidency of Emerson Mnangagwa? Is it not now more clearer that with a small push, it is now more possible to remove and deregister a presidency? How is power obtained in an illegal regime? One that is criminal from its inception, through an electoral process or through a legal strategy to dispossess? Does Zimbabwe have a real electoral system? And should people have to wait?
We are going to take to the doorsteps of Emerson Mnangagwa. We are going to overthrow him before 2023. That is not a joking.
His enemies said it was treasonous but the High Court ruled there was no crime. I decided to test this method myself and managed to pull up an interview question that totally froze up the president of Emmerson Mnangagwa's home country for a period of over 22 minutes. After I had decided not to wait for another election to overthrow Edgar Lungu, when he had shut the door on the opposition and was about to kill his own citizens. It was just one button I pressed on my cell phone, which helped not just to overthrow him, but to expose him before 632,000 citizens watching. It's now too clear there are so many ways Mnangagwa can be overthrown legally, with no protest, no violence, and no coup. Take, for instance, the Mudenda prosecution. If him and 5 government ministers are arrested outside the country, the basis for de-recognizing presidency is created, which conditions all push the nation closer to physically taking him out of State House legally. And the upcoming elections are held under the grounds that the incumbent was a criminal. Such legal grounds are extremely crucial and indispensable for the opposition to truly and successfully take over power. Because at present, Emmerson Mnangagwa takes the opposition in his world of realities, not as an election contestant, but as an invading army of white people who are disguised as black opposition leaders. Mnangagwa has also made it fully official and public that everyone who belongs to the majority and to the opposition are corpses before they even think. Now, going into an election with such a person who regards you as a war enemy. Who is Nelson Chamisa facing in the 2023 elections? A contestant in the election or a sophisticated war criminal? Is Nelson Chamisa ready for this challenge and to deal with the challenge in a way that brings victory for the masses? Can the ballot defeat criminality? Watch the next episode, which is when we touch down in capital city, Lusaka, Zambia.
Vanhu vese vanofana kuzviziva ro basa redu rokuti Mnangagwa aende. Nemhaka yechiti Mnangagwa anofana kuti aende. Zvokutanga ndechekuti kubva musi wakaita coup.
Voting for leaders of their choice.
He's the deputy in opposition in Zimbabwe. Yeah. And when the elections were held, the last elections in 2018 were held, he was hunted down and he had to flee to Zambia. So I was called I was 4 a.m. I'm being called, right? And I had to organize lawyers, I had to run around. It was clearly a military coup. It was a horrific military. They were clearly after his life.
Thank you. And thank you for everything, my friend, you did in August 2018, which helped the settlement.
They're talking about his mother. Even his own mother was besieged by soldiers because they wanted to change the election results. They eventually managed to change the election results, right? So Mnangagwa became president through rigging, yes, and using literally a coup, yeah? Well, through a coup. Yeah. So now, this time, I managed to go back to Zambia. We don't allow fake news. You know, these politicians, they create fake news. Course, yeah. So my role as a publisher is to ensure that I play my part and publish the truth. The truth is, this man is not president of Zimbabwe at all. He's not. Here is the evidence. But most importantly, you see, an apology similar to the one that was done in the 1940s over the Holocaust. And the one that facilitated, that helped to spring up out the nation of Israel into existence. So it's an apology to say, look, we apologize that our country allowed this to happen. So this being done before the UN, to say, look, this was wrong.
I don't give up. One
That's
thing
why I
about
went
me,
there. So I've spent
I have to stay strong.
more than
Get
10,
down to the
11
ground.
days.
Touchdown in Lusaka. And upon landing here, I find out, first of all, the infrastructure is building. And the road networks are starting to shape up. Look at this. Look at this. We get into the city. I managed to get to Edgar Lungu's property, his house right at the gate. So finally we arrive at the home. We are told by neighbors here that this is the home of the former president Edgar Lungu. As you can see here, we've been directed by a few kids and told us that we will get to a property.
Yeah, the president.
This is where Lungu stays. Up right above here, the Jura wall,
Just come from
which
London.
is more than 2 meters high, is a
Oh, my brother. You know what? Just I can't come all this far.
You didn't come to see him, did you?
I did.
What time did you?
Do you want me to show you my ticket? No, let me show you my ticket.
You came a long time ago.
No.
Madam, good evening.
Let,
Madam, good evening.
let me show you my ticket. Let me show you my ticket.
No, you can't see him. It's not possible. You have to. No, not even time. You have to make an appointment for the office.
Okay, which office?
There's, you know, the old office for former president.
Office of the former president.
Yeah, the one.
We don't live here. We live in England. Both of us.
All of you.
Yeah.
Okay. You know where Bishop Road is?
Bishop Road.
You are. Okay. You've been to Zambia before?
My first time.
Your first time? Yourself first time? Are you Zambian, you people?
No.
You are from
Half Zambian, half Zimbabwe.
All we want is for a clear statement of truth, an apology that breaks the fake news propagated by both Edgar Lungu and Emmerson Mnangagwa. And this is an apology over the coup that they did at Nelson Chamisa through the deportation of Tendai Biti in 2018. You have to make an appointment, the gentleman tells us there. And we leave Edgar Lungu's property with no success. We continue pushing to obtain the statement, which should bring the slab. Or here we say, press the button, the single button that should solve the problems for Zimbabwe once and for all. By this time, lawyers far and wide have made it very clear that this apology will be the reset button necessary to fix the country. So managed to meet a very influential man who grew up with Emmerson Mnangagwa and is very close to the new president, Hichilema. His name is Ambassador Vernon Mwanga. He emphasized
a firm commitment to democracy and to the holding of free and fair elections. Both the African Union and SADC have got very specific provisions in their protocol demanding that all member states should hold free, fair, and credible elections, which should represent, whose outcome should represent the will of the people, not the will of the leaders, but the will of the people, because the people are at the center of democracy. So it has to be understood that as we move forward, as countries or as the continent, that we must respect the wishes of the people by not interfering with elections and by not interfering with people who are actually going to take part in voting for leaders of their choice. This is extremely important and SADC are committed to, and to which we are all committed to as member states, because we approved those provisions. And it's important that we should not just approve them, we should honor them and make sure that the will of the people is respected.
What about? So quickly, obviously, just good morning to you. Join us live right now. This is a footage from a few years ago. This is just documentary coverage that we have been doing in our work that we've been undertaking over the last 8 years, as we cover the difficult journey Zimbabweans are taking to try and free themselves. And this whole massive research here, which has included hiring some of the best lawyers on the planet in Europe, in the United Kingdom, and in Zimbabwe, has resulted in at least three successful transfer of power, transition of power here. Malawi, myself, Simba Chikanza, have worked to remove to expose and remove the previous president of Malawi, who was called Mutharika, and I worked hand in hand with the new information minister, who is called Moses Kinkuyu, about 5-6 years ago, 2019 to 2020, when he was in the United Kingdom. We worked, and Malawi was fixed, or at least that far. And I'm also the one who did final phone call, the very last phone call, which was a very public phone call to Emerson Mnangagwa's partner in Zambia, Edgar Lungu, when he was president and he was about to shoot people on the 13th of August 2021. And then I also worked with the journalists, leading journalists, and also the former president of Botswana when they were fighting to remove the ruling party, and also worked to expose the Hopo Chingono of Botswana, who I was requested to help the Botswana citizens in unmasking and exposing in 2020, when this particular Hopo Chingono character called Frank Museveni was while dividing Botswana society, fighting to confuse and destroy the reputation of Honorable Job Sikala. Those who are Zimbabweans know the events of the last 5 years that the Hopo Chingono himself in Zimbabwe has been doing to confuse and disrupt and ravage the career of Honorable Job Sikala. And so the work that I did there was to help the Tswana people get rid, expose, unmask, and disrobe this Hopo Chingono of Botswana, who is called Frank Museveni. Those who are in Botswana, who know this Frank Museveni character. So, this is the work, the footage that you're watching, Zimbabweans are watching right now. It comes from that period that we've been fighting to expose and unmask these Hopo Chingono characters in the SADC region. And so 3 countries have literally been freed through these bits and dribs that we have been doing over the last 5 years. And now we have our own country, Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe ndo yasara apapa. And the Geza movement that has called for impeachment of Emerson Mnangagwa suffered a few drawbacks in the last few weeks through Hopo Chingono himself and a few other characters like Pardon Gambakwe, who were working for UEBERT and Mnangagwa to disrupt people, disinform people, and misdirect the efforts of citizens in freeing themselves up. And when people look at the slow movement of the process of anti-corruption and change lately, it is because of Opo Chingono and his clique. We include the Gambakwes and the like, who have been disinforming people telling people things that are too good to be true, to misdirect their energies, misdirect their efforts, and most of the time implicate them in crimes. And we have today a case in this week, a case against a man who is called by the alias NYOKA, man who is called, his name is Wellington Masiwa in South Africa, who was confused by the Opochimono characters. And they implicated him and tried to trap him using money. They trapped him with disinformation. One of them, this Chris Muchangwa Dubai, fake news, and to confuse and then make things appear as if something is happening. One of the things that they were confusing this NYOKA was this whole talk about bombings that were not even bombings at all, that were in fact plantings that were done by the very same Opochimono characters and their alliances and their accomplices in the country, in Zimbabwe, so that the Zimbabwean people, innocent Zimbabwean people, including also even Blessed Geza, are accused of bombing properties and the like, things that never happened. And anything that was done, they were visual plantings. Those were fires that were created to create visual impressions so that the people of Zimbabwe, innocent Zimbabweans, are implicated. So quickly, this is what is happening in Zimbabwe and around the world. One of the biggest fake news that has been propagated by these characters is a claim that there will be impeachment this week. We've been told officially by the CCC party that is the CC party, the largest opposition grouping in parliament. There is nothing like that. That ZANU-PF MPs, who are the largest majority have brought up. There's nothing obviously from CCC itself. Hakuna zvinhu zvakadaro, too good to be true. But Zimbabweans, quickly, we're going to be running another broadcast here over what Blessed Geza has done for Blessed Mhlanga. Just a month ago, Blessed Geza announced that Blessed Mhlanga would be out very soon. People will be out and they're fighting to come out. And this is what has happened in less than 4 weeks. Blessed Mhlanga is going to be coming out. He's won his bail yesterday. So we're going to be playing the footage so people see. There are certain things that are happening in the background, not the too good to be true claims and things that are being thrown about by YouTube and Facebook bloggers and Twitter bloggers as well, who are throwing fake news to misdirect the energies of the people and disinform them at the same time while disempowering them. So quickly, this is what is happening. Our viewers, when it says if there's an impeachment, when the impeachment comes, when it eventually happens, this is how it will look. So we're just going to quickly show you here. This is how it will look when it eventually happens.
The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would yield 1 minute to the gentlelady from Georgia, Ms. Taylor Greene.
The gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, I am against the impeachment effort by the Democrats. President Trump has held over 600 rallies in the last 4 years. None of them included assaulting police, destroying businesses, or burning down cities. Democrats have spent all this time endorsing and enabling violent riots that left billions in property damage and 47 dead across the United States. Democrats are on record supporting violence when it serves their cause, in their own words, on social media, on interviews, and on fundraising platforms. Act Blue. Democrats support defunding the police when it's someone else's city, someone else's home, and someone else's business. Democrats will take away everyone's guns just as long as they have guards with guns. Democrats' impeachment of President Trump today has now set the standard that they should be removed for their support of violence against the American people. I yield back. Thank you.
The gentlewoman yields back. The gentleman from Ohio wishes to reserve. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Levin.
The gentleman from Michigan is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, for 2 months, Donald Trump used the biggest megaphone in the world to organize a campaign of outright lies to overturn a free and fair election. On January 6th, he summoned and incited a mob of domestic terrorists to fight like hell and sent them to ransack this Capitol in order to prevent us from formalizing his election loss. It was a grotesque orgy of deadly white supremacism, anti-Semitism, and strongman rule. Today, we will do our duty and vote to remove the author of this horrifying chapter and banish him from public service. I yield back.
The gentleman.
Here we go, Zimbabwe. It's a very good morning to you. We're going to be coming later on. We're going to be showing you quickly the Blessed Geza development. Thank you very much. Good morning.